Daily Trust News Center. This is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, APC chieftains ask President Buhari to respect Supreme Court ruling on old Naira notes. Bandits shoot DPO, one other police officer dead in Zamfara town. ISWAP kills 200 Boko Haram terrorist families in Borno. And on the foreign scene, 2 Red Cross workers kidnapped in Mali. Hello and welcome to Trust TV News Hour. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. A chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in Zamfara State, Abdullahi Shinkafi, has asked President Muhammadu Buhari, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, and the Governor of the Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, to respect the Supreme Court ruling on the old Naira notes to coexist with the new notes as legal tender till December 31st, 2023. He said this while reacting to last Friday's Supreme Court ruling over the suit instituted by governors of Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states, challenging the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The report.
Shinkafi observed that the Naira redesign policy imposed hardship on the citizens, especially those in the rural communities. He urged the President, Attorney General of the Federation and Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to obey the decision of the Supreme Court, saying any attempt not to uphold the Apex Court ruling will be considered reckless, impunity, and invitation to chaos and anarchy.
Individually. It is a civic responsibility of every Nigerian, whether you are a president, whether you are nobody, you must respect the outcome of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land. That is why you see Hausa people are calling it Kotu Allah Isan or Kotu Koni. That is the highest court of the land. So Mr. President must respect the decision of the Supreme Court. Being a president, he must lead by example. He must be a law-abiding citizen of this country. He must not act under impunity. He should act within the confines of law and order. I want to commend the courage and the professional foresight of the learned jurist on how to uphold the Constitution of the Territory of Nigeria. And the decision of the Supreme Court today has clearly demonstrated that nobody is above the law of the land. The Supreme Court has granted an interim order restraining the federal government, Attorney General of the Federation, and the President from taking any further step on the new Naira design policy.
On the 11th March governorship and state houses of assembly elections, Shinkafi appealed to the governorship candidate to play the game by the rules and shun any act that could cause violence before, during, and after the exercise.
Meanwhile, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged President Muhammadu Buhari to disclose details of the measures so far taken to immediately and effectively obey the Supreme Court decision extending the validity of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes as directed, and directing the Central Bank of Nigeria to continue to receive the notes from Nigerians. In the letter dated 4th March 2023 and signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said there is an overriding public interest in disclosing the details of the measures the government and the CBN are taking to effectively and satisfactorily obey the Supreme Court decision. SERAP urged the President to publicly instruct the CBN to immediately and effectively implement the Supreme Court decision ordering an end to the cash withdrawal limits imposed by banks because such restrictions violate citizens' rights to freely use their property. SERAP also urged the President to disclose the measures that his government is taking to direct the CBN to immediately recirculate the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes as ordered by the Supreme Court. And now to matters of security, where armed bandits on Sunday shot dead a divisional police officer a police sergeant and a vigilante in an attack on Maru town, the headquarters of Maru local government area of Zamfara state. A resident of the town who craved anonymity has reliably told Daily Trust that the armed criminals had invaded the town to kidnap a businessman. The armed men had earlier abducted his brother, and who was freed after ransom was paid. They came again to kidnap him, but he had managed to escape. Unfortunately, they took his wife. The DPO mobilized his men to foil the attempt by the criminals to kidnap the businessman, but lost his life in the gunfight. The spokesman of the State Police Command, SP Muhammad Shehu, could not be reached for comment. And in the northeast, the Islamic State of West Africa province has killed over 200 Boko Haram terrorists and their families in a deadly rivalry crash in the northeast of Gudumbali, Borno State. It was gathered that the ISWAP insurgents targeted hundreds of the Boko Haram terrorists and their families at Chulie village, located in the northern part of the state, while fleeing ISWAP attacks between February 26th and 27th, 2023, which led to the killing of many Boko Haram women and children. A military source familiar with the development reports that the sustained attacks had led to the dislodgement of hundreds of the fighters. The source said the Boko Haram terrorists who scampered to safety ran towards the Mandara mountains in the Goza axis to seek refuge. In contrast, others fled towards Konduga, Mafa, Dikwa, Gajiram and the Lake Chad shores. And some yet to be identified gunmen have killed the village head of Maigari, Rimingado local government area of Kano State, Ahiru Abba. His son, who is also the chairman of Rimingado local government, Munir Ahiru Maigari, confirmed the incident to Daily Trust. He said the incident happened around 2 a.m., adding that the unidentified gunman stormed the monarch's home, inflicted various degrees of injuries on his body and later shot him dead. He was buried in Maigari village of Rimingado local government area of Kano State. When contacted, the police public relations officer SP Abdullahi Haruna Kiawa said he was not aware of the incident but will investigate and get back to our reporter. And to politics now, where the Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Sule has cautioned people in the state against the use of religion and ethnicity to cause crisis in the state. The governor gave the warning during a meeting with religious leaders following different videos trending on social media calling on residents of Nasarawa State to vote based on religion during next week's gubernatorial election. A correspondent, Abubakar Abdullahi, sent in the report presented from our studio.
Addressing the religious leaders on the provocative trending video, Governor Abdullahi Sule described the trend as dangerous to the growth of democracy, adding that it is a threat to the unity of the state if allowed to continue. He therefore appealed to the people of the state to avoid utterances capable of causing religious conflict in the state. He called on religious clerics to caution their followers against engaging in acts inimical to the teachings of their faith.
On the various religions, I'm not apportioning any blame to anyone. I don't even know who started, but from what you are seeing, it is going wild. Because now we are having people from far outside the state who feel they should participate in the debate of Nasarawa State. And that is because we allow ourselves. According to Abraham Lincoln, in his speech, where he mentioned a house divided against itself cannot stand. So we have to be very careful not to allow religion to be the reason that will divide us so badly.
Speaking to journalists shortly after the meeting, State Chairman of Christian Association of Nigeria, Sunday Ima, and Secretary General of Jama'at Nasr al-Islam, Muhammad Ali, expressed happiness with the meeting. They said the measures taken by the governor would give confidence to the followers to come out and cast their votes during the March 11th gubernatorial election in the state without fear of intimidation.
And from the angle of CAN, we are so happy with the call because a lot of our members are worried as to what will happen on the 11th of March, whether they will come for election or not, because of the threat, the intimidation, and all the provocative statements. But with this meeting, we call on every Christian, not just Christian, every well-meaning Nigerian, especially in Nasarawa State, to come out and vote. There's every assurance that there is security, and more so that anyone who wants to obstruct the peace we enjoy in this state will not be allowed to do so.
One good thing with Nasarawa State, we have never fight any religious fighting in the state. And inshallah, this time around will not come as a religious fighting. So Excellency emphasized more on the peace and let us have a peace. And some of these provocative videos and hate speeches, which he said we should let our followers to desist from such videos or hate speeches. We just want to have a peaceful election, just like we had during the presidential election.
The leaders of the two major religions promised to extend the message to their followers across different parts of the state.
And still talking politics, Adamawa State Labour Party gubernatorial candidate Umar Mustafa Otumba, alongside thousands of his supporters, have defected to the All Progressives Congress. Otumba announced his defection in Yola, and he urged all his supporters across the 21 local government areas to vote the candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Aishatu Binani, in the March 11th governorship election. Senator Binani appreciated the support, describing it as a big success.
Other integrities, if there are other integrities that need to be looked into, it will be done administratively.
I will say this is a very, very welcome idea. It has always been my desire for this, my brother and my uncle, to join me and support me in actualizing my ambition. And today is a dream come true. And asking what value will this add to this journey? Certainly, I'm sure whoever sees this combination today, I'm sure the opposition will be shaking. They know that APC has bounced to take over the leadership, the governance of Adamawa State. So therefore, we all know who is Otumba, we all know what value he can add, we all know his supporters across the 21 local government. Whenever Otumba's name is mentioned anywhere in the nation, not only in Adamawa State, he has one thing or the other positively to add.
Meanwhile, the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Saad Abubakar III, has called on Nigerians to accept the recent election results and the leaders elected. The Sultan made the call in a speech delivered at Aminu Kano Triangle in Dutse, the Jigawa state capital, on Saturday during the coronation and presentation of the staff of office of the new Emir of Dutse. Alhaji Saad Abubakar III said leadership is from the Almighty, given to whoever he wishes at any time he wishes, and nobody can query him or change what he did. The chairman, National Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, appealed to the leaders to be just and fair to their followers. He then called on the politicians to encourage peace and stability at all times. Politicians in the country have been advised to apply caution and guard their utterances in order not to truncate the nation's democracy. Some groups under the aegis of Katsina Youth Enlightenment Crusade on Peace and Development gave the warning at a press briefing. Abdullahi Yamadi completes the story.
Though the groups admitted that the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections were characterized by sharp practices, but yet could be described as the best in Nigeria's political history. The group, which is non-partisan, urged Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to rectify some anomalies, which include late commencement of election, late delivery of election materials, and voter endorsement by politicians, among others.
In Katsina, Kaduna, Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi State, Kebbi and Niger State, citizens are being decimated by the menace of banditry and terrorism. We hope to see a clear blueprint on how to bring it to an immediate and definite end.
While calling on Nigerians not to compromise peaceful coexistence on account of political ambition of any politician, the group appeals to the president-elect to form an all-inclusive government.
We urge him to also listen to the voices of building a new Nigeria, including from well-meaning individuals across all other political parties. We call on him to assemble a committee of experts in the economic field to bring to an end the financial predicament Nigerians are facing today.
In specific terms, the group called on the incoming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to complete some federal projects initiated by the successive administrations in Katsina State.
The rail project from Kano to Maradi of Niger Republic passing through Katsina State. The completion of Kano to Kaduna Federal Highway, the construction of 75 megawatt plant at Lambarimi, Katsina State, Ketco Booster Station in Katsina, School of Nursing and Midwifery in Malumfashi, and the proposed Funtua Agricultural University.
Many political observers hope to see improvement as it relates to electoral laws during the upcoming governorship and state assembly elections. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
And former President Olusegun Obasanjo says political leaders and not farmers should be blamed for Nigeria's inability to attain self-sufficiency in food production. He said this on Sunday at a lecture organized to mark his 86th birthday in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Obasanjo expressed concern that Nigeria and Africa had failed to take advantage of advancement in science and technology for the development of the agricultural sector. He asked Nigerians to blame the country's leadership for lacking the political will to turn Nigeria into the food basket of Africa. Earlier in his lecture, titled The Complex Dynamics in Achieving Food and Nutrition Security in Africa, the former Director General of the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, Dr. Natarna Sanginga, said African countries, despite being blessed with fertile land, still spend billions of dollars importing food. Sanginga disclosed that Nigeria spends 11 billion naira annually to import food into the country. He insisted that the country must move from a consumption country to a producing nation, stressing that the action will help improve the goal of food and job security. Still with us on Trust TV's News Hour, still ahead. We take a look at how a blind teacher writes books. Details of this and more after the break. Do stay with us. part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening.
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the
Already, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Hour. Now let's take a look at our top stories. APC chieftains asked President Buhari to respect the Supreme Court's ruling on old Naira notes. And bandits shoot DPO, one other police officer dead in Zamfara town. And now to other news. The National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has pleaded with journalists in the country to play a vital role in the drive to eradicate the menace of bleaching creams. The Director General of the agency, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, made the call at a one-day media sensitization workshop on dangers of bleaching creams and regulatory controls, organized for the Association of Nigeria Health Journalists in the Southwest, held at the House of Chiefs Secretariat, Ibadan, Oyo State. The DG said the workshop was aimed at educating people on the dangers of bleaching creams, safeguarding the health of the people and ensuring that consumers are well educated. The DG explained that the agency has regulated actions to stem the tide of rampant and pervasive cases in Nigerians using bleaching creams. She cautioned Nigerians to be wary of what they use and the bleaching of their skin, adding that continuous use of the chemicals will lead to dangerous health conditions. A Jos-based local inventor of hospital equipment, Abdullahi Ibrahim, says he believes that the locally made equipment are very effective and more effective than the ones from foreign countries. The inventor, who works at Yankilishi Street of Jos North local government area of Plateau State, says he has made several local equipment which were tested by medical experts, attracting recommendations of medical doctors. Ado Musa completes the story.
The local inventor says, aside the non-core medical equipment such as operating and delivery beds, drip stand, he also invents sensitive equipment like laboratory incubator for culture and sensitivity, centrifuge for blood and urine analysis, special baby care unit or baby incubator for premature babies, among others.
On the categories of medical equipment, as I earlier started mentioning, is medical laboratory equipment. They are categorized into medical lab, theater, and also the pediatrics. Now, in the medical line, I produce centrifuges, microhematocrites and the reader, incubators for culture and sensitivity, and also electrophoresis machine for genotype. That's for the medical laboratory. In the theater, I produce theater beds, theater lamps, stand for drip stands.
According to him, the sensitive ones are not just made without proper research to understand their workability in an African environmental setting where temperature is usually high.
A lot of cases where doctors are finding it difficult to take care of premature babies, but with the invent of my what I produce, I was able to curb that and make it much more easier for the doctors. Also, I produce jaundice machine, or we call it phototherapy machine, which is good for jaundice babies who have jaundice, and is good for the treatment of jaundice.
Ibrahim said finance had been the major challenge of the job. He, however, said if government will intervene financially to support local inventors in innovation, more job opportunities will be created for the youth in the country.
Well, the challenges I faced was research work, R&D. research and development, and I was able to make a breakthrough, and most of the professionals in the field have recommended that my handwork is very satisfying to them, and it gives me a lot of courage. But the challenges I'm facing today is finances. I want to grow more. I want to grow and become a big industrial concern in that I can serve the whole nation, if not Africa. But the challenges, is finances, money, and equipment for me to be able to expand, make employment, and be able to meet the needs of the nation.
The inventor said, although many are looking down on the local equipment, they are more effective when compared to the foreign ones that require huge amounts of money to purchase. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
And now to Bauchi State, where a volunteer group of Fadamo Mada community in the state wants the committee responsible for the maintenance of cemeteries within the metropolis to address the lingering issues of fire outbreak, especially at the old cemetery. The group, known as Zauren Sulhu, made the call during a periodic cleaning and evacuation of grass at the old cemetery along Fadamo Mada. Trust TV's Adam Imam reports.
The volunteer group of Fadamo Mada community says the call became imperative to rise up to the occasion and mitigate the danger of fire outbreak that is now a source of worry to the entire community around the cemetery. Honestly, all the houses around this area face a lot of danger and fears of escalation of fire disaster, and often wondering, animals enter our houses from the graveyard when the fire occurred. Similarly, dust and smoke usually hit our houses here within the community. This is our concern, which is a great problem to us. Representative of the communities within the area explained that they gather interested youths to help participate in the exercise and seek for the authorities' intervention.
Overcome this issue of grasses being overgrown and later become a fire incident. We have contacted our Meanguos and ward heads and up to the district head, where he suggested that we should go and advise our people to clean the graveyard. That's why we went to Osefa with this complaint, and they have listened to us. About 4 days ago that we met them, and they are here now. They are been evacuating the grasses that we have cut.
Meanwhile, Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency intervened with their heavy trucks and provided the group with 10 sprayer as part of the measures to address the problems.
That we actually want to provide a sustainable solution, a lasting solution to the entire problem, where we agreed with them that we will be partnering, to make sure that at the beginning of the rainy season, we are going to fumigate the area to make sure that, the grasses are not even grown too close of overgrowth leading to this fire outbreak. We came with about 10 knapsack sprayers. We want to hand them over to the community, and our fumigation officer, Usman Bakaro, is here, who are going to guide the community, and in fact we are going to give them 2 days training to make sure that at least they are conversant with the procedures of this fumigation exercise. We know we are approaching rainy season, so at least we are going to jointly fumigate the old graveyard about 3 to 5 times within the season, so that at least at the end of the season.
Engage you during the clearing lamented lack of tools and urged leaders to provide more in subsequent exercise. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
With high insecurity, high divorce rate and high cost of living, women in Katsina State are leveraging on business opportunities for their survival. Jamil Babai in this report tells us the story of a female journalist who ventured into the restaurant business to keep body and soul together. Let's take a look.
Rukaya Aliu Jibia, a non-practicing journalist in Katsina. Being a male-dominated profession in her area, women find it difficult to break even due to cultural and religious limitations.
Yes, as a female journalist, I faced a lot of challenges a lot of challenges. I think societal and religious challenges. I needed something because I need the cash flowing, because I have to take care of my kids and I have to take care of my family. So I thought of having a business, a side hustle aside from my job, that is journalism.
She decided to venture into business of selling food by opening her first restaurant.
One of my friends advised that I should open a restaurant, probably maybe because he always compliments whenever I cook, so he advised me that maybe I should open a restaurant, and I took his advice and started the restaurant. So that was why I started.
For any business to thrive, it has to stand out in terms of what is offered in the menu. To carve a niche for herself, she opened the first traditional restaurant.
So I think in every business, one has to make a mistake in every new business. So I made that same mistake that everybody makes. Maybe many people are tired of the food I'm selling. And this Gargajia business mostly is a business of old people in my society. Maybe the business is for old people. And at times, maybe one might even want to eat the Gargajia food, but because of the environment, maybe the environment that he will go and eat will be like not hygienic, or let's say the atmosphere is not conducive for him. So I think of maybe opening a Gargajia restaurant, but maybe a little bit upgraded Gargajia restaurant.
Cultural and religious barriers have affected women in business. Hence, increases women dependence on men. With harsh economic situation and high rate of poverty in a state with more than 7 million people, Rukaya is optimistic that with proper awareness and mentorship, young women can begin to create wealth for themselves. Jamil Mubayy, Trust TV, Katsina.
Now, a Jos-based Islamic scholar, Sheikh Na'annabi Mu'azu, who turned blind when he was in his mid-20s, says he has written more than 150 books since he became blind. The 58-year-old, who writes his books in Arabic language, said the Almighty Allah knows why he made him blind at his prime, and the incident turned a blessing for him. Ado Musa completes the story.
Despite his disability, Sheikh Na'annabi, a resident of Endoka Street, Josno local government area of Plateau State, wrote over 150 books and has about 1,000 of students of different categories, including adults, who learned different Islamic books from him. The Islamic scholar believes that he was destined to be blind by Allah, adding that some individuals are destined to lose their hands, legs, ears, or any part of the body as a test from the Almighty. When I became blind at the prime of my life, I accepted the condition as a will of Allah, because Prophet Muhammad says, whoever loses any of their sense organs and takes it as a destiny will surely be in paradise. Sheikh Na'annabi also explained why he doesn't use Braille as a guide to teach his students. Well, this is a modern way of learning or teaching someone, but to me, Allah does things the way He wishes. If He takes away one thing from you, He gives you another one. Probably, if all my sense organs are in good shape, I would not have had the wisdom to write books, teach or learn, and I thank Allah for that. Asking what is his hope in life, the Islamic scholar has this to say: my hope in this world is to live and end my life peacefully. I want all I have done for the good become useful to all and sundry even after my life. One of his students, Tijani Aliyu, explained why they seek knowledge from the blind scholar.
What impresses me with the Sheikh Ustaz Na'annabi is his eloquence in Arabic and Arabic literature, which is called Nahaw and Tasrif, which you hardly find a simple way of getting this knowledge elsewhere other than that of Maulana Na'annabi, because of his patience and his steadfastness in teaching from the lower books to the middle and the higher books. I've been with Malam in the last 14 years here, getting deep knowledge from him, which Alhamdulillah I have increased my knowledge a lot by his teachings.
Over his 30-year blindness, Sheikh Nabi has adjusted to his circumstances and believes that loss of one's organ should not define him or any other person, as that is destiny. Contrary to the perception of blind or disabled people as beggarly, the Islamic scholar preaches personal strive for self-sufficiency. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
You're still watching Trust TV News Hour. The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us on Trust TV News Hour. And now for some business news to put together from our studio.
The International Monetary Fund has urged the Central Bank of Nigeria and other monetary authorities to de-emphasize monetary policy as a way of tackling the resurgence of inflation. In a new report titled Rethinking Monetary Policy in a Changing World, the Washington-based lender said the ability of central banks to set monetary policy and control the economy in more fraught times hinges on its independence. According to the report, the low interest rate and less extreme public debt levels that prevailed after the global crisis in the year 2008 permitted central banks to ignore what were then relatively inconsequential interactions between monetary and fiscal policy. The National Bureau of Statistics' latest transport fare watch for January 2023 has revealed that the average transport fare paid on motorcycles, popularly known as Okada, rose by 36.75% year-on-year. According to the report, the average fare for Okada ride rose from 340.9 naira in January 2022 to 466.25 naira in January 2023. In the January 2022 report, it was noted that the average Okada transport fare was 262.03 naira in January 2021 and 304.94 in January 2022. However, the January 2023 report showed that the average fare paid commuters for bus journeys within the city per drop increased by 0.94% in January 2023 on a month-on-month from 644.66 naira to December 2022 to 650.70 naira. In another category, the average fare paid by commuters for an intercity bus journey per drop rose to 3,998.42 naira in January 2023, indicating an increase of 0.68% on month compared to 3,971.22 naira in December 2022. In a new report titled Food Security Update, World Bank Response to Rising Food Insecurity, the bank noted that domestic food prices remain high all over the world, especially in low and middle income countries. According to the bank, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, trade-related policies imposed by countries have surged, adding that global food crisis has been partially made worse by a growing number of food trade restrictions put in place by countries with a goal of increasing domestic supply and reducing prices. The bank also said a $30 billion relief package spread over a period of 15 months, including $12 billion in new projects, will be rolled out to help countries to cope with food insecurity. According to the report, up to 205 million people are expected to face acute food insecurity and be in need of urgent assistance in 45 countries. That ends the business news. I am Kabir Lawal.
And President Muhammadu Buhari arrived in Doha on Saturday night to attend the 5th United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries. His participation at the summit precedes an official visit at the invitation of the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Inde Amadou, who is on the entourage of the president in Doha, now reports.
The United Nations Conference on the Least Developed Countries holds once in a decade and provides an opportunity to garner the support of the international community for accelerating sustainable development in least developed countries, as well as assist them to make progress towards achieving prosperity. Nigeria is not one of the 36 nations listed as least developed countries, but is committed to supporting the most vulnerable countries to meet their development challenges because a large number of them are in Africa.
70% of this number is in Africa, and all of the problems of the world are around these few countries. They have about 14% of the global population, but put together all of their GDP is less than 1.3% of the global GDP. In terms of export of manufactured goods, they control less than 1%. So they are bedevilled by so many things, debt crisis, problems of borrowing, hunger, insecurity, compounded by climate change, and all of the things that have been generated by global recession and the coronavirus epidemic. So this meeting, perhaps more than even the General Assembly of the United Nations, it is to bring everyone, together, the least developed and those that are developed, to talk about the problems of these countries that need to be supported, need to be pulled up.
As most of these countries struggle to find sustainable solutions to challenges of poverty, adverse effects of climate change, food and energy crisis, as well as high debt burden, the question to ask is what is different about this conference?
This is focusing essentially on what to do in order to solve problems. Other meetings may be happening, talk shops and all of that, but the thing is that you expect that there will be an action plan that will be generated from Doha, as was the case when they last met 5 years back in Istanbul. So we expect an action plan, arising from this.
The summit will be attended by world leaders, the private sector, civil society, and youth organizations. After the summit, President Buhari is expected to engage one-on-one with the Emir of Keita to work out partnership between both countries on Nigeria's own peculiar challenges. On the president's entourage to Doha, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
Now we'll look at the foreign scene where 2 workers with the International Committee of the Red Cross were kidnapped on Saturday in Mali. In a Twitter post, the organization's Mali branch said 2 of his colleagues were kidnapped between Gao and Kidal. The organization said with concern that the agency has been present in Mali for 32 years and is a neutral, independent and impartial organization. Since 2012, Mali has been in the grips of a serious security crisis where violence, including kidnappings of foreigners and Malians, is common, and motives ranging from ransom demands to acts of reprisal. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republic of Congo President Félix Tshisekedi has urged visiting French President Emmanuel Macron to pursue international sanctions against Rwanda for its alleged military support to M23 rebels. Macron said he was waiting for the end of several ongoing peace negotiation efforts before considering such a step. But he promised that France would be faithful to its role as an unwavering ally of the DRC to defend its integrity and sovereignty. The Eastern DRC has been mired in conflict for decades, with armed groups vying for control of the region's vast mineral resources. Most recently, the DRC has accused Rwanda of supporting M23 rebels who have seized control of large swaths of the country's east. Rwanda has repeatedly denied the allegation. And the head of the United Nations Atomic Agency, Rafael Grossi, says Iran has agreed to reconnect cameras and other monitoring equipment at its nuclear sites and increase the pace of inspections. He made the announcement on Saturday after meeting Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi and other top officials in Tehran. The head of the UN Atomic Agency's visit follows the discovery of uranium particles enriched to near weapons-grade level at an underground Iranian facility and came just 2 days before a quarterly meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, 35-nation Board of Governors. The IAEA and Iran also issued a joint statement following Grossi's visit, saying Tehran has expressed its readiness to provide further information and access to address the outstanding safeguard issues. Still watching Trans TV News Hour. Take a short break and the news continues after that. Stay with us. Welcome back to Trust TV's News Hour. Now for some sports news. The Nigeria cycling team has begun its qualification quest for the Paris 2024 Olympics at the 2023 Africa Track Cycling Championship in Cairo. According to the Nigeria Cycling Federation, NCF, the team is made up of 8 female cyclists, 6 senior and 2 junior cyclists, who have been in camp for over 2 weeks ahead of the African event. Speaking on the African Track Cycling event, a board member of the NCF, Femi Thomas, expressed optimism that the team will perform creditably well at the federation, as the federation has put in place necessary logistics for the Cairo event. The Nigeria Cycling Federation board member and Confederation of Africa Cycling Secretary General Bashir Mohammed will be at the African Championships in Cairo, which will serve as a qualifier for the 2024 Olympics and World Championships coming up in France next year. Now for a taste of the UFC, Jon Jones made a triumphant return to the UFC after 3 years to submit Cyril Gane and win the heavyweight title at UFC 285 in Las Vegas. The American was making his debut at heavyweight but needed only 2 minutes to become a 2-weight UFC champion. 35-year-old Jones forced France's 32-year-old Gane to tap with a guillotine choke to stake his claim as MMA's greatest fighter. He has now competed in 16 title fights in the UFC, winning every single encounter, although his 2017 win over Daniel Cormier was overturned to a no contest. Jones joins an elite class of fighters who have won UFC titles at 2 weight divisions, including Conor McGregor and his bitter rival Cormier. 2-time heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic was cage-side watching the contest, and Jones immediately called out the former title holder. Now to Formula One, where Red Bull's Max Verstappen started the new season as he ended the last with a dominant victory in the Middle East. The 2-time champion led the Bahrain Grand Prix almost from start to finish, initially lapping at a pace beyond his rivals and then controlling the race. The drive, Verstappen's 36th victory, underlined his status as favourite for a 3rd consecutive world title. Sergio Perez made it Red Bull 1 and 2 ahead of an inspired drive by Aston Martin's Fernando Alonso in 3rd. Perez has won a fight with Charles Leclerc over 2nd place before the Ferrari driver retired from 3rd with 16 laps to go when he lost the drive. And on a sad note, Abdullahi Abacha, one of the sons of late military head of state General Sani Abacha, has been buried in Abuja. The wife of the Yobe State Governor, Gumsu Abacha Buni, announced his death on Saturday via Instagram. Abdullahi died in his sleep at the age of 36. Born in 1987, the deceased was one of the 9 children left behind by the late military head of state. And lastly, before we go, we leave you with this feature story. Let's take a look.
As I started this journey, I knew that one day probably I'll start working with the big artists. It's been one of my dreams to get good visuals for them, because most of them are really talented, and I'll want to give them visuals which will push their audio.
Nimepata wife, nimepata new thing, leta kidole apete umepata new bling, mapenzi na flow vile missing, itaniwasha sana ukigo missing.
African directors are really doing a good job, and we have very beautiful colors in our videos. We have beautiful people in our videos. We are showing the African resources that we have, the natural resources, which I think some of the countries don't have. So the African directors are able to show our culture in a very beautiful way.
And action.
Wajua kunifurahisha, wajua kunichekesha, kweli Mungu wa amani yangu.
what I work towards, integrity, and also having a different feel in all my productions. So in terms of color grading, in terms of how we approach videos, we have the idea even before we shoot the video, have a treatment.
Only one God, only one God, oh, say it, only one God.
You have to work hard and also do a lot of research. So put God first, work hard, and do a lot of research. That will set you apart from others.
Only one God, oh, say it, only one God. And always I'm fikisha, Subaru iwezi, Subaru iwezi.
And on that note, we wrap up Trust TV News Hour for tonight. Don't forget, you can subscribe to watch us live on YouTube and follow us across all our social media platforms. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Thanks for watching.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.